Hi, this is the second half of your recorded PowerPoint, again taking the place of the class that we had last evening. The personal leadership template has been shown to you. It was in the Blackboard shell. You can easily find it if you scroll down from the overview, scroll down, look at where the videos are, and keep going down. And below the week's assignment, you'll see in each week that the personal leadership template will be right there for you. So this is the whole purpose of this, is to get you to think about the kind of leader you want to be and what you need. It is not intended to be an exhaustive study of leadership, but rather applying leadership as you're learning a little bit about it to you. So you're also going to use this in later courses, as I mentioned last night. But for right now, I want you to look at this and think about what you can and should do. So, as I mentioned, the Leadership Development Action Plan has 9 pieces. The first 3 pieces will be due as a draft in week 3. I'll then review them. I'll send them back to you. Then you can make changes or adjustments or updates. At any point, you can set up a call with me and we can go over this. But I want you to know you're going to continue to see this as we go through the next couple of weeks. When I say it will be due in week 3, it means at the conclusion of week 3. So at the beginning of week 3, you will begin to really work on this, and we'll talk about it in greater depth. Here are the three pieces: who you are. Then the second piece is personal mission statement. The third is personal value. Sections 4, 5, and 6 are submitted in week 4. Again, all of these things are going to make much more sense as we dig in. But there are worksheets and there are connections to get you to things so you can just think about what this might look like or mean to you. Your next 3 pieces, remember, piece 4 is personal leadership vision statement. And until we hit that, you're just talking about yourself as a person. 5 and 6 are also contained there. And then 7, 8, and 9. And as I said last night, this is where you start to talk about how to come up with your leadership style. You identify the best of the best, and that's influence. You talk about mentorship, if you want to be one or if you need one. And then what's your time frame? Again, all of this is going to make much more sense. But just start to hear the terms that are in the Leadership Development Action Plan. Now, here's our lecture. And I apologize again that these slides did not show up yesterday. But when we talk about leadership, there is an assumption of a definition kind of like this. And this is from the Daft Leadership Experience text. This was in 2015. They keep redoing this book, and some parts of it are fairly decent, but this definition really sticks with me. Influence-based relationship among leaders and followers. To be a leader, you must have followers. But it's how you treat followers that define a lot about what leadership looks like. You are looking to make changes and outcomes that reflect shared purposes. Remember, leaders don't have specific duties, but rather to eliminate all the obstacles in the path of their followers so that they can do the work. That's an incredibly important thing. So when you look at this definition, think about if it means anything to you. As we go along, we're going to talk a lot about followership. But for right now, I want you to think about APA. This is the first time I mention APA to you. Notice that this is a direct quote. And the direct quote begins where those quotation marks are, and then it ends where the second set of quotation marks are. Notice what's contained in an in-text citation. The last name of the author, the date of publication, and the page number. We don't use a lot of direct quotes. We try to use what's called paraphrase, where you would take the words of Daft, but you put it in your own lingo, your own view. And then all you would include would be no quotation marks, parentheses, daft, comma, date of publication, in this case 2015, end of parentheses. Notice where the punctuation is after the second parentheses. So, leaders are changing. And leaders are changing because the world's changing. What we expect, an old paradigm leader is someone who told people what to do. They often had these particular, they were a hero, or they were somebody that kept things status quo. That was a big thing. They controlled. New leaders are the ones who say it's time for a change. They're not afraid of change. Change in an old paradigm leadership model meant that you only did it and utterly there was nothing else you could do. Here, we're not talking about that. Notice that it goes from hero to humble, depending on which paradigm you're looking at. That's an incredibly important one because humble leaders are leaders who recognize they never do anything alone. That if it were not for the talents, capabilities, and skills of the people who report to them or report to the people that report to the leader, there's no way anything would get done. Humble also means gratitude, one of the most important words in leadership, and incredibly forgotten is gratitude. So, if we know a little bit about leadership, there are theories, and we're going to look at these as we go through every class. Every course here has some theory or theories that it applies. Great man theory, that's the hero. And you can hear that in the old paradigm of leadership. This person did it all, influenced it all. Even in the greatest organizations, it wasn't just one person. Now, when anything is incredibly interesting, people go to see where similarities exist. Trait theories are when you look to see what all leaders or most leaders or some leaders share that in terms of traits, how it differentiates them. Now, trait theory, one of the things here is there's almost an assumption of you had it at birth. And we don't believe that. We believe everyone is a leader. It's how you decide to use your leadership abilities and how you craft that story that is going to be your journey. We talk about behavior theories, that if you have certain behaviors, that there is a relationship to success or to failure. I will tell you that Walt Disney went bankrupt six or seven times in the course of his life before he met Mickey Mouse. Failure is oftentimes associated with success. They are, in many ways, two sides of the same coin. But the truth is, few people have known just success. Most everyone knows success and failure. Contingency theories. Leaders transform by changing behavior, either changing their behavior. Remember that a leader's style isn't going to work for everyone. Contingency really is situational. It's all about doing what's right for a situation, right for a group of people, right for a particular project. Influence. There's an awful lot about charismatic leadership, and you will hear that term charismatic leader frequently. I want to remind you that charismatic is neither good nor bad, because it could easily be said that Mother Teresa and Hitler were both charismatic leaders. Their intentions were not the same, but their ability to influence the people that followed them follows a general trend. Now, how people interact and react and, craft relationships is different. Whether it's how a leader and followers, do they work democratically, or is it my way or the highway? But transformational leaders, charismatic leaders sometimes, but also servant leader. The value of the people that are reporting to you is a particularly critical element. I consider myself to be a servant leader, And what that means is I use my skills and abilities to advance other people because they deserve to have their time in the sun where they shine. And we will be talking much more about servant leadership. Here is the evolution of leaders. And you can see error 1 start over in the far bottom right corner. See how it's much more organizationally motivated, but it's also a single person. Now, as you move up, you see rational management. This is where we start to think about function. I want to remind you, management exists to limit chaos. That is the critical reason why. But notice perceptions are changing. As we change, we start to look at turbulence. Turbulence is about when leadership is changing because the world's changing. People's abilities, their desire to commit to an organization. Look as we move down to the bottom right-hand corner, and we're looking at learning leadership. When we incorporate learning as a critical element of leadership, we are honestly looking at something called level 5 leadership, which we will look at much more frequently. If you have a chance and you're ever looking for a great book, Jim Collins' Good to Great, it is a critical read. And I will tell you that for quite some time, when you were hired by Mohegan Sun and you were hired into a leadership position, it was expected that you read Good to Great and Jim Collins' other book, which is Built to Last. So, what can really keep leaders in the background? What can keep leaders from doing their best and derail them? It's about getting your work done. You have to meet business objectives. But if you are not someone who can work well with people, your leadership is pretty often going to be subject to problems. There's a difficulty in changing. There can be more than just, oh, he's got a kind of sketchy attitude or personality. If you have difficulty in building a team, or if you have to be the one who knows everything and you can't grow off of other people's ideas, chances are your leadership is not going far. Here is a nice way of learning how to be a leader. This is a slide I would suggest you definitely look at. The original slide without a voiceover is in your weekly unit. But look at what you do. You're starting to learn about leadership in leadership courses. You develop traits. Hopefully you already have empathy and patience. I will tell you, coronavirus has taught us anything. It's taught us that patience and flexibility are critical, not only in leadership, but life. You'll notice also mentors or identifying the best of the best. All of these are critical parts, which is why we ask you to spend the time looking at that. So what are you going to do for the next class? You're going to read your articles. You're going to do the discussion board in week 1. Write a short paper, no more than 3 pages. Consider if you have any questions. Remember that curiosity is a critical element of leadership, and I'd love to hear from you. If you want, we can set up weekly calls so you can get used to going to class or going to school again. And important, our next class, we are going to focus on writing. I am going to send this to you. And before we go, make sure that you look at your Blackboard. Make sure you're comfortable with what Blackboard is about and how to do it. Any questions, see me. So I always end a class with a comment. Leadership is not about a title or a designation. It's about impact, influence, and inspiration. Impact involves getting results. Influence is about spreading the passion you have for your work, and you have to inspire teammates and customers. I hope this will go away to help you be more inspired, but I promise you in the weeks ahead, you'll be shocked at how much fun this will be. Thank you so much, and again, I apologize for last evening.